So welcome. It looks like we do have a few attendees at this point, and hopefully we'll get some more here in the next few minutes. My name is Maria Barnes, and I'm the president of the Lunchtime Access User Group. Today's session is going to be on a Q&A session, and we're going to take questions and try to answer them from the group. We did want to see here, that's just events for the whole group here. So I'm going to try to get to events for the future here for Access Lunchtime. We had a question about what today was and what was coming up. So the next 3 sessions after today are web apps using Azure, and we may after the announcement here that Giorgio is going to, or George rather, is going to tell us today. If you haven't already heard, we may change what we're doing for next month, who knows, and that is scheduled to be a guest speaker. And in May, at the end of May, we're going to cover the differences between the different versions of Office, 2010, 2013, 2016, and then the one that someone was asking about integrating with Power BI, that's September. We're going to take a break for the summer, and that will be September. And I do have someone scheduled to do that right now. I don't have the details about that up yet because they haven't provided it, but that will also be a guest speaker. So that's in September. So keep watch on the calendar. And I also wanted to let you know that we do have, let me see if I can share my screen here. Share screen. We do have Mary monitor, share. There we go. Technology is great, isn't it? Okay, we do have a Facebook group now. Let's see, that's this right here. So if you are a Facebook person and you want to follow us on Facebook, I'm going to see if I can get that up here in our chat. And I will look up the presenters here also for Power BI and for our Access Developer or Access Web Apps for next month. So, George, did you want to make the announcement about
our late unlimited friend?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. This came out yesterday afternoon, late in the day. It started to float around on a TechNet blog post. Microsoft announced that. Oh dear, I hit the wrong button here. Announced that they are going to end Access Web Apps. Now, normally we hear about a deprecation and then an extended period of denouement. This time it's basically we're going to end it. The details, I was trying to find the link with the details, but basically in June of this year, you will no longer be able to create an Access Web App on Office 365. They will remove the create functionality. As of April 2018, that's approximately 1 year from now, they will remove all existing Access Web Apps off of Office 365. So anyone out there like me now who does have live working production Access Web Apps have 1 year roughly to identify an alternative, develop a new interface, migrate the data, and implement the new interface. Now, from my perspective, I think This is not nearly as simple as some people look at it. My perspective is this. I am kind of the, well, I guess my name on a book is kind of the death knell for Microsoft technologies. I was co-author on a book on Access 2010 web databases, and you all know what happened to them. Then I was a co-author on a book on 2013 Access web apps, and now we see what they're doing to them. So I made a public vow last night that I will not write a book on Power Apps, nor will I participate in writing a book on Power Apps. So with that said, let me back off and give you a little bit more perspective. One of the advantages of the Access web app was that it is sitting in a SQL Azure database. Now that SQL Azure database does have limited functionality compared to the full SQL Azure, but it is a very, very cheap way, very inexpensive way to get a full-fledged SQL Azure database behind your Access application. And a lot of people, actually, like myself, have implemented what we call a hybrid version, where you publish the tables to the Access web app, then you relink your existing Access ACCDB file to those SQL Azure tables, and from then on you pretend that the SharePoint site, the Office 365 site, is not involved at all. You're strictly working from the Access desktop. And from that perspective, as I say, it can be thought of as a very inexpensive way to get a SQL Azure database up and running very quickly and easily. The downside, of course, is that it is only available through the SharePoint world. All the security is handled via SharePoint, which is a plus in some ways, but it's still tied to SharePoint. The other limitation that I'll mention is the lack of robust coding. Data macros and user interface macros, the two flavors of macros that are available, are very strong compared to some of the other alternatives out there, but compared to VBA, they're very limited. We had always hoped, those of us who got involved early, we had always hoped that at some point Microsoft would open up that box and allow us extensibility within that SQL Azure database, but that never happened, and now it's not going to be. It's just not going to happen now that they've pulled away. So we're all searching for alternatives. I've begun notifying people that I work with. I have one more to go that I haven't contacted yet. We're setting up meetings this week to start talking about a migration strategy, where we're going to move the data to, how we're going to redesign the interface, whether we're going to just stick with an Access to SQL Azure implementation, or if we're going to try to redo that Access web app that runs in a browser as a .NET type of interface. And those decisions will be happening soon, and I think that conversation will be happening in lots of places in the next few days. The timeline is incredibly short. We have exactly 1 year, and for people who have built a business around the Access web app model, that's basically the death knell for their business, because in order to identify an alternative, spin up coding to create a viable alternative interface, deploy it, a year is not a long time to see it. Now, and as Juan just pointed out, on the Power App side, which is what Microsoft is calling the successor, they're even more limited now than Access web apps. The functionality that you can get in the Power App is substantially less than you can get in an Access web app. So they have a long ways to go to even equal Access web apps. And as I said, we've got UI macros, data macros, which are, children compared to the adult VBA world. And the Power Apps are toddlers. But they do have all the resources of the entire Microsoft organization behind them. And that means they have perhaps more sticking power for the long run. So with that, you've heard my take. I also share, I think I saw or heard someone earlier point out that in a way there is a silver lining. It means that Microsoft will no longer, the Access team will no longer be split into this dual purpose organization where they're trying to support the desktop and also trying to support the web world. It will free them up, we hope, to put those resources into building a bigger, better, faster, stronger Access ACCDB. So with that, there is always a silver lining. Hopefully that's it. And I will just stop talking now and let other people go.
Okay, thank you so much, George. I appreciate it. Juan, did you want to say anything at the start today?
This is coming as an incredible disappointment to a large swath of AWA users that took the time to learn the technology, maximize the potential, and unfortunately it's taken some people by surprise, which is a real shame because a lot of people saw the tea leaves, including Andy and myself, way back when, more than a year ago. And so, although we couldn't confirm that it was going to be discontinued, we've been knowing for some time, but we were prohibited because of NDA reasons from discussing it. So, at this point, starting the .NET conversion, you're running up against that one year limit for some of these apps that were quite complex. And the other alternative, which is to wait out Power Apps to see if they get the SQL Store procedures, I will say this is a new Microsoft. If they say they're going to roll out a feature, it's not going to be a year from now. I mean, the Power Apps groups, the Power BI groups, some people don't understand this, but that technology, Power Apps, under the same guy who heads up Office. And there's a huge support and resources behind Power Apps. Microsoft is leveraging the entire company behind that technology. Versus AWA, it was just only an Access with some SharePoint help in it and some SQL Server help from guys. So AWA was never going to get the love, even if they continue AWA, it was never going to get the love that Power Apps and Power BI is getting now. So, the wait and see strategy is not a strategy, but for some reason, you have an app that you think it's going to be impacted so much so that you'd rather take your chances with Power Apps. That's one way of doing it.
The other thing that I would just like to add in, and please, George or Juan, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you were using an Access web app as essentially just the data store, and you were accessing it through an Access front-end desktop, that part will still essentially work for you, correct? Because that's really, they're not doing away with Azure databases.
Yes,
so
they are.
That's really where your data was.
Yes, they are.
They are doing away with Azure databases?
That's my understanding. Juan, am I wrong on that? My understanding is that, well, again, Juan talks about reading the tea leaves. My understanding is that the actual SQL Azure database behind all web apps will be removed in April of 2018. And that means you have between now and then to figure out what you're going to do instead. Now, I should confirm that, unless Juan can now.
Well, and maybe the solution would be to migrate that to because SQL Azure is a SQL database.
Right, and actually I'm working on a blog post as we, over the next couple of days to try to talk about that. It's one of the things that Microsoft announced in this is a tool they are working on to move your SQL Azure tables from your Access Web App into SharePoint lists. And they made that possible. And if you have an existing AWA, go in and look today in the upper right-hand corner. You've got the little gear. And when you click on it, it offers you a chance to edit the database on your local hard drive. There is a new option there called Export to SharePoint. It became live this morning. And if you click on that, it theoretically will take all of your existing AWA tables from the SQL Azure database and put them into SharePoint lists. I tried that on my principal site this morning, or last night I should say, and it failed. So it's not working correctly for everybody yet, including me, but theoretically that is going to be another option. You just click on that button and it will export all of those tables to SharePoint lists. Now, if you're a fan of SharePoint lists, okay, they have their strengths and their weaknesses as well. But you could
perhaps, George, you can demo that by sharing your screen with us.
Let me try. We'll see what happens. It failed last night.
Maria, if you can stop sharing your screen, we can get.
Yeah.
We can get. Just stop presenting, and then George can present his screen.
I think I have. Oop. How's that work?
Okay.
And
So I have options.
There's a desktop icon down below near the red call button.
Yep, and I'm saying manage. I think this. I don't have the option that I thought I needed, which is to share. Oh, do I have to join as a presenter? Do I have to be made a presenter to do that?
Maria, can you right-click on his name in the participant list and make him a group of the presenters? Presenter group.
Yeah, looks like I can. There you go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Present desktop.
Present arms.
Well, and let me just say, I still think that there's got to be a way to be able to use SQL Azure.
Well, yes, there is, and I'll get to that.
To lists.
I'll get to that next.
Okay.
Okay, now can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So this is the gear option. You can do the customize and access and apps for Office. Those two were always there. This is the new one that lit up this morning or last night. I click it. It does two. It creates a sub-site, and then it creates a SharePoint list for each table in your AWA. And when I did this last night, I failed, or it failed. I shouldn't say I, because all I did was click the button. But the process failed, and I've already been in touch with the Access development team this morning about it. And hopefully I'll get some feedback from them today on what happened. So we get to this point. Now it creates this new sub-site, and there's the URL for it. I'm just going to copy that out so I can get back to it. Yep, and this is the same issue that I got last night. The request started, it failed to start. And this is the one that's kind of insulting. The export is completed, but it had an error, so nothing actually happened. So hopefully, like I say, I'll be able to work with the Access team through the day-to-day and figure out what's going on and maybe.
Well, they just launched this. To be fair, they may have some kicks on here. So
oh, yeah.
I know George is working with the Access team directly to get this resolved.
Yeah, I'm probably their first beta tester in the wild. But yeah, that was my experience so far. Now, as I say, the other alternative, I'll close this. Let's see what else I've got up before I close it. I don't want to. Okay, we're seeing some email from the MVP group, none of which is very complimentary. Okay. So I'll quickly run through this. This I know also works. Now this is my desktop, and this is where is my diabetes tracker?
If you've just joined us, let me just say we're talking a lot before we start our regular Q&A session about the news that came out this morning about Access services being deprecated, and what are some of the ramifications of that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now again, I'm going to skip over some things because I assume you probably know most of this. But if you create an app package in your Access web app, it comes out looking like this. And one reason to do this would be to take regular backups of your data, but this thing is 723 kilobytes. But this is in fact a zip file. So if you rename it, and then open it, you can see in here this little file, which is called a DAC pack. Now, Juan, you know what that is, right? If the rest of you don't know what that is, that DAC pack has all of the internals from the SQL Azure database itself. It includes all the tables, stored procs, views, all of the data is in there. So what you can do, and I've done this a couple of times for test, is you can extract that DAC pack from this file and then deploy that as a data tier application on a different SQL server. So very quickly, I'll start up my SQLs. And as I say, I think I mentioned, I'm kind of working on a blog post explaining all of this so that I can start putting it out there. But
George, when you get that link to the blog post, if you want to send it to me, I'll publish it on our blog as well, the link to it.
Okay, yeah, it will go on my personal blog. It'll go on the AWA user group, which I'm now sort of the leader of that group, and then I'll make sure you get it.
Okay, so that's accessible from the AccessUserGroups.org in the Access.
It will be when I get it done.
So we can look there too. Okay, thanks.
I want to take a little more time and make sure I dot all my I's and cross all my T's before I publish it. I tend to shoot from the hip a little more on my blog, but this one I want to be more buttoned down. So there is an option here under databases. Now this is looking at my existing SQL Azure database, and I'm going to do this again because, okay, I run several databases here. This one is my personal time and billing. This is another client, and I am already in the process of testing this DAC pack migration for their data. And this is the one that I created for myself off of my data. So to use this DAC pack package, you go under Database, right mouse click, Deploy Data Tier Application, browse to the folder. Now it'll take you to the defaults. Rats. I have way too much garbage on my machine. Where did I put that? Oh, it's still inside the. Okay, here's the one from 2 days ago. So you just find that backpack package, select it, and then from then on you can just follow the steps in this wizard, and it will deploy that entire database onto a different SQL server. Now I happen to pick SQL Azure, but if I go to, let's see, we'll put it on this one. I've got it here twice as well. You can do the same thing. The reason I did this is you can put it either on Azure or onto a local instance, and this is my local SQL server. So you can put it in either place. And the thing there is now you do have your data in a SQL Azure database to which any ODBC compliant client can connect. And if it's behind an Azure database, then you can also connect from any web browser that supports that. So we have a couple of different tracks to run on. It's not going to be painless, but it's certainly doable.
Okay. Anything else that anyone would like to cover regarding this, or do you want to go ahead and get into the Q&A?
I think I'm good. Let's go ahead and start with the Q&A.
All right, sounds good. You can unmute yourself if you would like. I think I unmuted someone, but if I've unmuted you and you want to be muted because you don't have a question right now, you can go ahead and remute yourself. That's fine. If you cannot get your microphone unmuted, please type me a message and you can go ahead and, or I'll help you get unmuted. So you can either type a question in the conversation or just speak a question if you've got one, and we'll try to address it. If you want to, George, stop sharing your screen, that would be great. That way we can share someone else's if we need to.
Hi, Maria. This is Phil Graham. Got a general question about how people deal with apostrophes and names when they're doing search criteria or filters. I'm going to go ahead.
All right, you cut off there, but I unmuted you again.
Sorry, I just unmuted myself. Can everybody
Yep.
hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. What I'm looking for is to see what everybody uses for a strategy to deal with names that might have a apostrophe, or if you will, like a Spanish name that might have an accent or a tilde in it when you're doing searches or trying to apply a filter to a form or a report. I posted some code on typically what I use to structure a where clause.
And so George, or I'm sorry, Phil,
Yes.
what you're trying to do is search for the apostrophe. And
No. When I let's say I've got a name that has an apostrophe in it. If I try doing a search with it, you get an error message. Because the SQL blows up because you've got that single apostrophe in it.
Okay. So what I usually do is if I have a field that might have an apostrophe in it, before I would combine it into code, like to build a SQL statement, I would do a replace on that field and replace a single apostrophe with a double or two single apostrophes.
Well,
And
I've tried that, and
mhm.
I don't get any results appearing when I try. I've used the replace, used the even with where you have like take extra quote marks. Let me just pop up the code that I've typically tried. And bear with me while I'm pulling that up.
And we'll try to give you control here.
Oh,
George is trying to stop presenting.
I've actually I've put in the the typical search pattern that I work with, and now I'm going to show you like a replace statement that I've used.
Let me see if I can make you a presenter, Phil.
I don't have Office 365 to allow me to do anything for you.
Okay, so you can't share your screen?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
And you'll see that I just put in like after Juan Soto's message,
Yeah.
Replace string text with like a single to a double apostrophe. And
that's what I usually do.
But when I try it, I don't know if you saw the previous code that I put in there, which would be like around the 1:27 p.m. Starts with a dim var where is variant.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now.
And I've tried like where I might have like the me.text last name. I've tried to enclose that with the replace instead of the string text. And when I actually try to apply the filter, I don't get any results. I mean, and I'll get like two apostrophes or two single apostrophes. But the results don't work. So I was wondering if anybody else has encountered this type of a problem and what kind of solution they might have used.
Okay. Does anyone have any input on that? I think I'll try to see if I can pull up a.
So, by the way, Phil, what database backend are you using, Access or SQL Server? Phil?
Looks like he's unmuted again here.
All right. So one of the things that you can do.
Sorry, I muted. Yeah, I use Access Desktop. I've got 2013.
I know, but the data itself is in the back end of Access as well.
No, it's in a desktop. I've got a back end. Okay.
So one alternative would be to create a query that strips out all those little symbols, right? Okay. And then you have a clean version of all the columns. And you you do a union query, or not a union query, but another type of query where you can see the unstripped versions and the stripped versions together. So if you have 6 search fields, so you display to the user, it'll be 12, and then or 9 based on which ones you have. And then you search on the ones that don't have the accents. Yeah, but you display the ones that do have the accents. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, except for what I'm trying to implement is like, let's say a user has a form where they can select, let's say, first name, last name, city, state, and then filter out results and then open up another form showing the results. So if the user is typing in, let's say, O'Brien.
Yeah, I'm trying to demo here with O'Neill, just in a create query, so they can kind of see what we're talking about here. So in SQL, it would look something like, can you guys see my screen here?
Yep.
Something like this, where we have the single quote in there. But the problem is when you build this in SQL, in VBA, you're doing so inside of a string, right?
Right.
How about, have you tried, no, that probably won't make any difference, will it?
And I've tried also putting in, like, not only replace, but I've tried, actually going in and, putting in extra quote marks, like double quote marks as well. Like have 3 double quotes before the variable, and then have 4 double quotes after the variable. And I mean, it works until I try to open the form.
So you try to open the form.
Correct. Like what I do is, as you can see from the code that I applied there, I do command apply filter, and then I built like a where string, which is in that code that I posted earlier, and that's where I get no results show up for some reason. It works fine if I have like an O'Brien. If I just type in an O, it returns records. But if I do like O apostrophe B, then then it doesn't return any records for me.
Okay, so you're not building a whole SQL statement like this, because this is typically what I would do.
I build whole SQL statements in the example that I've given you, which was just a short one. I've built like the where statement, which would be like where last name equals, and then you have the variable that you're putting in there.
Right, but are you trying to use that where clause in like opening a report or a form with a filter?
Yeah, correct. If you look at the code, the last line there is do command dot apply filter.
Okay. Yep.
And then I built it as a variable or a var where.
We're trying to do something like this. Right?
Correct.
And then we're trying to use that, apply that filter someplace.
Yeah, you do like a do command dot apply filter.
Right. I gotta get a form going here. And we're going to do, just for testing here, we're going to do on the open event or load event. Sorry. All right, Cindy says she has a form that converts SQL to VBA and corrects double quotes. Do you want to go ahead and take a look at that, Cindy, and see if you have any helpful hints for us?
Can you hear or no? Can people hear me? I'm coming through a phone.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I'll just paste the code that goes behind it in here, and you can tell. All right, copy. Paste. It's kind of skinny there, I know, but so basically what you do is you type in the string that you would want to say select star from table where last name equals O'Neill, and then it applies. So if this is what I'm putting in there.
Wow, let me see if I can copy this into the main page here so we can see that better, because this is hard to read. You're right.
Right, and it's not worth the effort to try to trade screens here. So the last two ones.
I don't like the way this works here. Oh.
You want to see my screen?
Can we do that with the way you're hooked up?
I don't see why not. I've got Skype up.
Okay, let's see if we can do that. I think I have to make you a presenter. There we go.
All right. I'm not seeing it.
Let me stop presenting, and then hopefully you can see a button that looks like a screen down at the bottom near the call button or the hang up button.
I click share screen or what? Okay,
Yes.
Okay. This one? No, not that one. This one, primary monitor. Share.
There you go.
Okay. Are you seeing it?
It's loading on my end.
Let me know when it's loaded.
I think I see it, but don't see, I only see the conversation over there. There we go. Better.
So you look on the top. This is what you want to do for your thing there. And then when you click, this is what it produces over here. And here's the code. Where'd my code go? There you go. Does that make sense? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, I mean, I can see what you're doing there. What I'm trying to do is just build the where statement for the apply filter.
So then what you would do is you would grab this and put it into your where statement.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, all I do is put a double quote mark at the where last name equals.
But what my thought is, as you're generating, can you use this code here to actually do it on the fly for you, so you don't have to know that O'Neill is in it?
I'd have to test it, and I can't. Obviously, I can't get a hold of the code from here. That's why I sent you a note to see if you could forward it to me by email when you have a chance later to test it out.
Sure. What's your email address?
I put that in a message, and there if you take a look at the conversation section.
Oh, now I got to find the conversation.
It should be the last one at 142 after you posted the.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I'll send that off to you.
Great, appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I've played around. I've tried doing it and tried different options, and thought somebody else might have another solution that I could attempt to work with.
Yeah, I'm while you guys were looking at that, which that's a nice conversion tool there, I took a look at the, applying the filter with the double quotes in there, or the double single quotes, two single quotes in there, and it did not function. It did not return an error, but it did not function. The form is not filtered based on that name.
Correct.
And if you have only one in there, it also doesn't seem to work.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure what's going on with that. I can certainly, play with it at another point, but that's a great question to bring to the group. And certainly if anyone else has any ideas later, please let us know so we can pass that back to Phil.
And my email is there if anybody wants to communicate directly on it as well. Appreciate it.
Okay, great. Anyone else have any questions?
What was it that you were referring to, the deprecation of access? I missed that.
So at the beginning, we talked here about an announcement, and I'll see if I can pull that up again here. That was made this morning. Let's see if I can share my screen. All right, I think there we go. Can you see this here, the updating service, access service, and SharePoint roadmap? So this was announced this morning, and it's kind of a big announcement and has taken some of us by surprise. I must say that I'm not totally surprised, but I'm disappointed in the way it was announced. So the gist of it is that Access Web Apps is going to be deprecated and phased out. And so they have some timelines. They're going to stop new creation of Access web-based apps in the SharePoint Online program starting in June this year. And then any existing ones, they're going to shut down by April of 2018. And that's pretty quick. If you're relying on an Access web app right now for production, you know, that's disappointing. You've got to take action within a year time frame to replace that. They're suggesting that you move to Power Apps, which is something that's definitely new and powerful, but yet I'm not sure is a total one-for-one replacement yet. Maybe it will be by next April. And we do currently have on the schedule for Access Lunchtime, oops, this is the wrong one here. Got a couple meetings coming up to address both of those things, and I think I might speak with the speakers. We have web apps using Azure here at the end of April, and integrating Access with Power BI, which is not quite the same as the Power Apps, I don't believe, but you know, we may look at switching around those two presentations. George Hepworth was on earlier, and if you missed it, you might, within a day or two here, Lucy will have the recording of today up on the Access Lunchtime site under recordings. You might go back and listen to, you know, the beginning of the presentation here today. But he's going to be writing a formal blog post about it and the suggested conversion if you've got custom web apps right now and you want to try to convert them to Power Apps, or if you're using them just as a back end and you want to try to convert that either to SharePoint lists or to a Azure SQL database or something like that. You know, he's going to try to outline some of the possibilities, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that over the next couple months, but you need to know that it's an issue, and if you have clients that are using Access Web Apps, you should probably give them the notice right away so that you can begin some kind of plan, since we only have a year turnaround here. Okay, looks like we also have Juan making a comment here, trying to plug Office 365 for Office365day.org. It's a physical, I believe, event in the Grand Rapids area, but check it out. It's free. Any other questions? We have just a couple minutes. Juan had to leave, I think. Let's see if we can get it pulled up here. I think it was org, right? Yeah, it's at a physical location here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So if you're near that area, take a look at that event. All right, if no one else has any questions, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up today's session. I do appreciate everyone joining us, and please have a look. I will try, let's see, George is on the, he is the leader here of the web apps group, and so he'll try to post a blog here in the next few days about, here in this blog, about the migration paths and what to look for web apps. So look for that in the next couple days, and thank you so much, George, for joining us and reviewing that announcement today.
It was my pleasure to be here. Not a great pleasure to talk about the subject, but definitely a pleasure to be part of it. Thank you.
Has to be done. All right. Thank you all.
Hey, Maria, I saw that Giorgio Rovelli had a question for you, where he had a question about your presentation on how to upgrade an Access application.
Okay, let me take a look.
Posted that at 150 in the conversation.
150.
Says, I wanted to ask Maria about what she says at minute or 26 minutes and 46 seconds in the
Giorgio,
video.
Are you still on here? Here, let me see if I can unmute you. There you go. Yeah. What's your question?
Well, I just typed what I think you said, because I'm not sure, because you were talking about the time and billing, and you said something like, it doesn't look like I have time and billing in here, and then you said something that I'm not sure I understand. He says, see if I grab and erase that, or something like that.
I guess
it's a 2646.
2646. Okay, I guess I will have to go back and take a look at that, and then I can try to answer that question for you. We do occasionally get problems with our recordings. One of those months, I think it might be that time, or maybe it was last month, I actually had to re-record the first 10 minutes because it got totally messed up. So it may be something like that, where it's just fuzzy or just me rambling.
It might be just me being Italian, not fully.
Not understanding the English. It could be. I will try to look at that and see what I might have meant by that, to clarify that for you. Apologies.
Right. No problem.
All right. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. And
so you're going to send me an email or something with the...
Yes, I will do so.
Right.
Yeah, and I may put that in the blog post as well for Access Lunchtime so others can see it, but I will send you an email as well.
Okay, you have my email, right?
Yes, I believe so. Did you get the announcement today? The email announcement?
Yes.
Yep, I do. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.